For now, I'll turn it over to John. Let's give him a warm welcome, please.
Thank you, Julian. On behalf of Redaptive, it's really a true honor and privilege to be up here speaking at this event, and I think an exciting time in general, as we all know, given what's happening in the environment, and obviously I'm just coming from California, so obviously we're in the news related to some of the wildfires, and I think all of this is culminating in a real call of action, as we all know, that's being embraced across utilities, residential, and corporate industrial sectors, and really making sure that sustainability plans and objectives, bold objectives, are being held to task and being held accountable to. And it's a really exciting time for myself and my colleagues here to talk about what Redaptive's doing, because historically speaking, energy efficiency, particularly within the corporate industrial sector, probably hasn't gotten the type of attention and acknowledgement. A lot of it has to do, and we'll get into a little bit more detail later, about the mindset of how a lot of companies and frankly look at energy assets within their buildings, that it's more of a reactive maintenance event. But what we're seeing, broadly speaking, and we have a good case study with one of our customers to talk through, is the importance of energy efficiency in really meeting these sustainability plans. And stepping back, I mean, I think there was a panel statement that 70% of demand, grid demand, is related to the commercial industrial sector, which I would argue, most of that indirectly or directly relates to their building footprint. And the biggest objective I'd love to make sure I convey here is just the importance of energy efficiency within C&I real estate portfolios, and the need to really scale these type of initiatives in meeting the sustainability goals. You cannot meet these really bold 100% renewable, et cetera, off grid independence without having an energy efficiency plan. It should be a pillar in implementing sustainability plans. The second is the complexity of trying to scale efficiency, particularly across distributed real estate assets, and how companies like Iron Mountain, as an example, are leveraging platforms like Redaptive's and enabling them to deploy efficiency and scale across their portfolio. And then finally, also outlining what we're seeing in the marketplace related to some of the Internet of Things technologies, sensors or submeters, innovations in finance, where really at the end of the day, of a new paradigm of how you should look at efficiency. Well, let's move forward here. So, as I mentioned, what we're seeing in corporate America, boardrooms are really taking companies to task. Sustainability plans, and it's not just a nice feel-good PR type of objective. They are literally being held accountable to, okay, what have you done? What's your scorecard look like? Why can't you do this faster? And it's complex, as we all know, particularly within the commercial and industrial sector, where, in our opinion, the adoption barrier can almost be categorized threefold. Number one, companies just don't have the internal capital or desire to invest their capital into their real estate, particularly to proactively replace assets that they feel like are still working. A classic example is fluorescence. Why do I need to replace my fluorescence with LEDs if the fluorescents are still working? I don't really have the appetite or capital appetite to scale a portfolio-wide implementation of LEDs across my portfolio. So capital is a huge impediment. Second is the resources. Trying to implement this across your portfolio can be a very complex undertaking, particularly when you think about the savings or ROI or payback of these type of measures can look very different whether you're in PG&E territory or Con Ed territory, et cetera, Encore, whatever it is. It's very challenging, and a lot of companies are not set up internally to navigate this across their portfolio. Finally, the transparency of what the true savings are. It's very hard to decipher what energy savings are by just looking at your whole bill, and trying to get a better understanding of, frankly, what your consumption looks like today of what your assets are. And then that can help you determine what to optimize or prioritize in terms of efficiency measures. So Iron Mountain is a great example of a company that has really embraced the challenge of sustainability and going green and resiliency, et cetera. And as you know, RE100 is something that they've really put and have shown a lot of market leadership towards and have set very aggressive objectives. What I'd like to do is to actually turn to the next slide and really talk about it from Iron Mountain's perspective of how they thought about their sustainability plan and, frankly, the conclusion they came to of efficiency has to become a pillar in what they want to achieve. If we could roll the video. This is Dan Aminos, who's the Vice President of Facility Program Management, Iron Mountain.
In order to achieve our recently announced science-based targets, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and RE100 goals, we developed a four-part strategy. First, how we reduce our energy we use. Second, when we use our energy. Thirdly, how much we pay for the energy. And then finally, maximizing the use of renewable energy source. In 4 short years, today we are generating over 6 megawatts of power on our rooftops via solar power. We are using over 125 megawatts of power through wind farm energy. We are buying renewable energy directly from suppliers. And for this particular project, we wanted to reduce the usage by eliminating high wattage lighting fixtures to low wattage LED lighting on motion sensors. So on the surface, this would require a high capital investment as we have hundreds of light fixtures in each of our facilities. So we had to think about this just a little bit differently. The strategy we use is thinking about lighting as a service versus the traditional way of replacing one fixture at a time. By doing so, we're able to use off-balance sheet solutions to go fast in rolling out the LED program. So let me turn it over to my partners who will explain in detail how we deliver lighting as a service.
Okay, well, that's a nice setup from Dan about a recognition from a customer that, hey, efficiency and developing a more strategic programmatic approach to efficiency is critical for us to hit these objectives that we've espoused in the public marketplace. But here's the challenges, as we talked about. So anytime this is the same sort of dynamic about when you're trying to scale solutions, whether it be generation, storage, or efficiencies, a lot of customers have a distributed real estate footprint. Iron Mountain is a classic example. It's got upwards of almost 90 million square feet, hundreds and hundreds of facilities that span the globe. And efficiency in many ways, and this is somewhat true with generation solar, but kind of specific to efficiency. Efficiency is predicated on the fact that if you don't replace your fluorescents, or if you don't replace your rooftop unit that's still dependent upon R22, you are wasting the natural resources, you're wasting energy. And you have assets, and I'm going to talk about a geeky financial term, what finance people call it, is you have negative carry assets that are bleeding on your balance sheet. But that is literally what's happening up and down the marketplace, up and down the real estate portfolios of these companies, primarily because they've never looked at lighting or HVAC, et cetera, as traditionally as OpEx or energy saving opportunities. These are maintenance-based opportunities. I wait for stuff to break, I react, then I fix it. To proactively or programmatically replace assets, that's very challenging mindset. That needs to be driven. There's a lot of change management involved. But a lot of it also just has to do with the fact that you're trying to scale for it to matter ultimately in terms of your carbon emission goals, in terms of your financial goals. The right way to scale these technologies is to just scale this across your distributed real estate portfolio. And time, speed matters, particularly if you believe in what efficiency is about, that you are literally wasting energy. And a great part of what the new technologies that we're seeing, whether it be submeters or sensors, we can now quantify what that cost of waiting or delay is and actually shine a light, no pun intended, to customers of here are the areas where you're wasting energy and what are the right technologies that we need to address to drive the needle here. And so in collaboration with CBRE, we developed, frankly, a new paradigm, a new program that Iron Mountain has implemented, starting with LEDs, but is now migrated and expanded into other technologies, and has, we think, potentially, and the way this program is morphing to, which is very similar to our other customer programs, has developed a lot of, I think, synergistic benefits related to the generation and solar storage space, which I'll go into more detail later. But what is this? What is efficiency as a service? I'm going to go back into the last video here, but I think it's always great to get it from the customer's mouth. So actually the next video here, if we can turn to it, is, I apologize, actually before I get there, let me talk first about what the service is. Let me talk first about the data, actually. The data is the most important first step. Before we even talk about what Redaptive can do, which again, I'll elaborate in the next slide, we got to first talk about what the data means. And the data is such a critical part of enabling these customers to scale efficiency, because it first starts in what are your opportunities? Where are your opportunities in your portfolio? And how can we rank the type of opportunities either by technology or by geography to create a programmatic rollout plan? But the other part of where data is really crucial is understanding and trying to really get to the heart of what is the performance risk associated with these technologies. One big impediment in scaling these type of efficiency measures is project-related risk. And that's where platforms like Redaptive can add a lot of value, is that there's a lot of appetite in the private sector to transfer away that project-related risk. Because for companies like Iron Mountain, they should be insulated from factors that are out of their control. And we as providers, based on data, can underwrite this performance, whether it be in the form of guarantees, but ultimately, what we're in the business of is really trying to ascribe value to these assets and understanding kind of ultimately what are potential factors that can impair what we expect to be the savings or NOI or the payback sort of proposition for these assets. And so all that upfront part was something that we collaborated in depth with CBRE, where we were sourcing both energy-related consumption data, whether it be collected at a sub-meter or sensor level, as well as maintenance-related data, kind of the wear and tear, and how much maintenance spend is being used to manage these assets. And based on that, we were able to develop a plan and execute now the following.
Efficiency as a service provides the capital investment and managed deployment of technologies to reduce energy consumption. It provides complete visibility into the performance of the upgrades and guarantees results. This solution was recently implemented by Iron Mountain, the global leader for storage and information management services. Let's see how it worked. CBRE and Redaptive evaluated the portfolio to identify savings opportunities and conducted site audits to develop a portfolio upgrade program. Turnkey retrofit work was funded and completed, and meters to monitor savings were installed. Iron Mountain signs off on the solutions implemented, and monthly invoices reflect the actual savings realized at each site. Our clients always pay less than their total savings realized each month, meaning they see energy cost savings from day one. Post-implementation, Iron Mountain benefits from a 25% reduction on their utility bill. If we zoom into these savings, we can see that a portion is utilized to repay the initial project costs, and the rest is kept by Iron Mountain. The contract term is flexible and based on customer preference of how much savings they wish to retain. After the completion of the term, the project is fully repaid, and Iron Mountain keeps all of the savings. The truly innovative feature of the program offered by Redaptive and CBRE is the flexibility for Iron Mountain to capture more savings sooner by contributing their own capital during the term of the agreement. We recognize that clients often prefer to utilize their own capital, but the timing and availability of those funds are uncertain, often delaying or preventing facility upgrades. By eliminating the decision of how to fund projects, solutions can be implemented and savings can be realized, all while still allowing capital to be deployed later. Let's see how that works. If Iron Mountain applies capital to existing projects in year 3, their retained savings increase, and completion of the term is sooner. By decoupling the timing of executing projects from the availability of capital, Iron Mountain removed indecision and other funding pitfalls. Instead, project implementation is immediate and scalable to their portfolio, with zero upfront capital required and zero risks. Savings are transparent, and they are able to pay off the program early if they so choose. With CBRE and Redaptive, Iron Mountain has accelerated their projects, saving more time, money, and achieving emissions reductions faster.
So through a as-a-service alternative, Redaptive was able to deploy its capital to invest effectively in Iron Mountain's facilities, and the service we provided was delivering saved energy validated by sub-meter data. We started with lighting. Lighting, as we all know, within the efficiency space is probably the lowest hanging fruit. Surprisingly still, even though I think everybody, including real estate managers, a lot of these companies realize that efficient LEDs are here to stay. A lot of it is the lack of speed and scale, what Iron Mountain found value in the Redaptive platform was to allow us to, frankly, get off the dime quicker than them, work with their partners like CBRE, who has already an embedded infrastructure of program management within their building space, and accelerate the retrofit of LEDs. And we moved at a pace that was, frankly, 6 times faster than what they were historically moving at in the kind of do-it-yourself, self-funded paradigm. That acceleration, frankly, more than offset any differential in quote-unquote cost of capital. That's often a big question that a lot of customers have is, okay, why am I using your capital versus my capital? And and I think the recognition from Iron Mountain and other companies was, well, number one is speed, the acceleration of deploying it through your structure, but also Redaptive does have mechanisms when I do get the capital that they allow that to be folded into our program, and it's a good use of my capital from a return perspective, but Redaptive is de-risked what that return looks like because they've breathed life into this program. They have real performance data to support what the quote-unquote savings returns look like. And as you can tell, that was a big value proposition for Iron Mountain. And what we've done, and this is just the first wave, so it's about 10% of their portfolio. We put in close to 50,000 lights. Just that first tranche is generating 20 million in kWh reduction per year, net savings to Iron Mountain of about 2 million. They have a 5-year program where they're saving 10% of the measured savings during that term, and at the end of the term, they get 100% of the savings because they own the equipment free and outright. And what's really exciting about it is we've made a big difference within their goals and now looking at other technologies that can fit this paradigm. So for example, looking at HVAC rooftop units, but certainly discussions with them and with others, and this is why I'm excited about being here today, we are getting pulled into the generation storage space and finding ways to bundle these measures, broadly speaking, with, let's say, solar or storage. Because ultimately, we're all solving the same thing, whether it's efficiency or generation. On our side, we're trying to provide procurement tools, enablement tools for these large corporate industrial customers who don't have the capital resources or ways to measure the true performance. And if we can de-risk certain parts related to the performance to get customers comfortable with the technologies and their performance, then those are areas where we can drive a lot of value. So risk transfer, guarantees, et cetera. Working with partners like CBRE, being agnostic, frankly, making sure that we are viewed ultimately as an extension of the customer staff. That's a big part of it. It's the resource deployment, but being seamless about it and making the customer feel like we're truly on their side of the table. And again, the biggest objective we aspire to be is to be considered an extension of their staff. And then, of course, ongoing through measuring and showing the actual consumption reduction, because we have to for billing purposes, since it is a PPA-like arrangement, although it's a reverse PPA, as some people have called it. but also that's going to drive immense value to the customer, not only for measuring the performance of the asset that we've invested into, but also potentially identifying other assets and other measures that can make a difference in their portfolio. And so really pleased to be here, and I think, again, I just want to stress, hopefully people can walk away understanding the importance of efficiency, that there are models for efficiency to truly scale, and the integration points. Because what we're seeing is what's next with a lot of our customers. And what we're seeing with storage, for example, is I'm not interested in storage by itself. I like storage and efficiency. Or how can I combine what you're doing on the efficiency side with what I'm doing on the generation side? And so that's really exciting. I think these bridges are getting built. It's the same convergence that we're seeing, largely speaking, whether it be in the financial space with smart folks who understand how to underwrite performance data, understand how to think about financing distributed real estate assets, whether it be on the IoT side of actually really becoming granular and understanding what your consumption looks like, ascribing, if you will, a currency value or of savings to each asset, and all that's coming to a head. It's a really exciting time to be here. I think I've hit my limit. There's no surprise. I don't know if there's any time for questions. Julian, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, I think we have to wrap it up, but maybe just one question briefly. Seems like currently there's a lot of excitement around corporate procurement of renewables. They like to be able to say, hey, I built this solar plant or built this wind plant. Do you think that efficiency could generate that kind of excitement, or you know, why hasn't it so far?
Well, I think ultimately, the excitement is hitting your numbers, hitting real results, something that's meaningful. Say, I evaporated X million dollars of greenhouse gas emissions, or you know, it's the results that are the sexiest thing ultimately that matter. In terms of like, and you know, I have my marketing team here, and then they can expound. There are ways to make pictures and stuff of what you've done, of really enhancing the building environment. A lot of our customers come back to us and say, "Wow, you know, you retrofitted just the lights," and literally people are coming back saying like, "What did you do? You must have done a full remodeling. It just feels brand new." And so there are examples of that win-win, but ultimately, if we can twin our measure with like solar,
then they don't have to choose.
They don't have to choose.
Gotcha.
So
and do you see this market being as big as the corporate PPA market for generation?
Easily.
Okay.
Easily.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all the time we got, but let's do a round of applause for John, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. And next up, we're going to hear about the